Afternoon, everybody. Happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. Today I'm going to be doing 6292, which is this one. I've done it before. I'm going to change a few things. Instead of the loops, I'm going to put eyelets in, which I have my tool right here. And the eyelets will look like this. And then on the sleeves, I'm gonna band them instead of having them just kind of floppy looking. I want them kind of like banded. So those are a couple things I'm gonna change. And so the first thing we need to do is get our front piece, which is number 5, and we have to make darts. And I'm gonna have to find a pin that I can see this blue material with. This is gonna be really, really pretty for fall. Okay, so as you know, I make my darts a little bit different. I do them on both sides to be sure I get the perfect dart. Okay, so the first thing I do is I mark where my darts need to go. I'm making a size 12, so find your 12. Like I said, I hope I can see my marks. And I'm using the heat pin, so that's why I didn't mark them before. So I just take a ruler and mark from dot to dot right in the middle of the dot. And then just come back over to the next dot. There it is, to there. Okay. And do this on both sides. I do mine on the front and the back. So then just come over here, do the same thing. And you're gonna hear my bird again. So mark those and then mark your front side and I'll be right back. Okay, once you have both sides marked, come over and get a pin and put it right in that dot. That's your point. And then fold your material and line up your lines. Okay, that's right on. Okay, and then line up this line. A little bit. There we go. You want to be sure these are lined up perfectly. So I'll put in probably 4 pins. Okay, and then get your other side done. So the same thing, put a pin right in the middle of that point. And then put those all together and I'll be right back. Okay, once you have your darts done, I left the long tail. So all you do is just tie a couple knots in it. And clip it off. And then you want to press your darts downwards. Get this one. So just a couple little knots. Okay. Just trim your thread off. And then, excuse me, press your darts downwards. There we go. I know it's hard to see, but here's your darts. Okay, now you need to get your back side, which is side, or 9. And we're gonna stay stitch. Now stay stitching is about 1/4 of an inch away from your raw edge. And you're gonna go this way and stop, and then come this way and stop. I also made this a little bit longer, just because it's gonna be like a winter shirt. Okay, so from here to here, and then from here to here, 1/4 inch. Okay, now you're gonna sew your shoulder seams, your front and your back. I'm just gonna put a pin, even though I have my darts, I'm just gonna put a pin in my front piece, just so I know. So I just put a little safety pin in the front, just so I know it's the front. Sometimes when you get going, it gets a little difficult sometimes to figure out which is the front and the back. So match up your notches here on your shoulders. And this is going to be a 5/8 seam allowance. So match up those notches. And then, like I said, sew them 5/8, and I'll be right back. Okay, once you do that, press open your seams and grab yourself some interfacing, because we're going to need to iron some interfacing on our next piece, which is number 8. So just open these up. And the interfacing I use is lightweight interfacing. So get your number 8, put this aside. And just cut a piece that matches your number 8. And I use Pellon 880F soft shape. And I use this on all my clothing. So you want bumpy side up because that's going to be the glue side. So I just pin it and I'll cut it and then I'll just bond it on. So let me get that done. Okay, so just get this bonded on. And I'll try to get as much as I can get done till my daughter comes for Father's Day. She's making her dad fried chicken. So on the sides and on the edge, you're gonna turn under 3/8. So let me get my little ruler. So just get your little ruler. And on your sides and on the bottom, press under 3/8. So get that done. Okay, now if you're gonna do the loops, this is where the loops would come in. I'm not doing the loops. I'm gonna be doing the eyelets. There is a video of me doing the loops, so you can look back at that one. This one is gonna have the eyelets. So we need to get our front piece, which I have my pin here, so I know it's the front piece. And we're gonna have some dots where we have to have this laying just right. Okay, once you match up your dots, oops. Okay, once you match up your dots, you're gonna pin this on. I didn't roll the camera when I was doing this. And pin it on. Then you're gonna take your number 8 and you're going to draw these lines and dots. I already sewed up here, so I can't open it up. But open up one side, and that way it will give you exactly what you need. And just mark your number. I'm doing a 12, 12, 12, and down here. And then just take a ruler and make a line all the way onto your dots. Okay. Then you can come back and just iron this just just a little. Be sure it's all pinned up. They want you to baste it. If you feel comfortable not basting it, you know, don't baste it. And then you're going to go to your sewing machine, and from about an inch away from each edge or end of your yoke, it's 3/8. So all the way come around to your first dot. Then come all the way down, back up to this dot, and back off this just, you know, like an inch. Okay, once you have that done, we're going to split this down the middle. Okay, so get your scissors, and you're going to cut this down the middle. Do not cut right to the end, because you might clip your stitch and then it'll be opened up. So just cut it down as close as you can get it. Just be real careful. And I have my little scissors. These are really thin scissors, and sometimes I can get down, you know, just a couple more stitches. Okay. And see, then this is going to be folded in. So I'm going to clip my edges, and I'll use my pinking shears, because that just helps with the corners. Okay. And I'll see how it folds out. If it's kind of a little bumpy, I might take some right here. So I'm just gonna take just a little section. I mean, it's not a lot. And that's just the pinking shears gives it that ability to curve. Now I'll get my turning tool, which is right here. Okay, and turn this inwards and try to get a nice point. And then you're gonna iron this down. Okay. So once you get that ironed down, this is gonna be your V. And your loops should be pointing out now. Like I said, I'm doing the eyelet, so I'm going to be going through this. All right, let me go get my birds fed real quick, and I will return. Okay, the next thing you do is get number 10. This is your neckline, and you're going to iron it wrong sides together. Match your notches and the small dots. Just be sure you get this pretty even as you can. Okay, the next thing you want to do is you're going to match up your notches right here on your neckline. And this is the neck band pins. And your small dots. And this will go over some of this part that you already did, because you want that to go underneath. So just match up everything. And this is going to be sewn in a 3/8. So just pin it. The small dots are the shoulder seams. So get that all pinned up, then sew it at 3/8. Okay, once you have this pinned, sew this 3/8 all the way around. And then we're gonna understitch, and then we'll turn this under, and we will be making a stitch all across here, which will come into play when we tack these down. So let me get this sewn up. Be sure you have your shoulder seams opened up. Okay, now we have to layer stitch, or layer seam this. So it's taking off one layer of material all the way around this neckband. So I'm going to take, I think, the top piece right here, and just be careful not to cut into your shirt. Okay, now you're going to fold this down. Now you can understitch if you want, which is right in here. I usually don't understitch stuff. I'm gonna get this with the roll method, and I'm going to get it so that seam is right on top and press it. So once you get that done, then we're going to baste all this down and across, back up, and back around the neck. And that way, it will be squared off. Okay, so the rolled method is you get where your seam is, and you kind of roll that material, and that way you'll get the right seam. It's gonna be right on top. Okay, and press that down. So just keep doing that, and I'll be right back. Okay, get a needle and thread, and we're going to baste around the neck. Then when we come to the V part, I'm gonna baste pin, which means I'm gonna put a pin kind of like where I want the stitch. So when I'm basting, I can follow this line of pins to be sure that I'm hitting it. Okay, so when you come down, you want to be sure this is straight. So on the inside, I pin, because I want my stitch right there and my basting. So when you look on the outside, you have your whole pin line, so you know to baste right there. So just be sure this is nice and straight. And then pin it. I'm gonna open this up the other way, like this, so I can see it. So that's nice and straight. So then on my corner piece, I'm gonna take my pin and I'm gonna go sideways. That way I know that that's my corner. So just keep pinning this part up, and then your neck you've already turned under. So we just have to baste that. Just keep that nice and straight. Here's my corner. So I'm gonna put my pin in sideways. Okay, and then just keep pinning up, keeping all this nice and flat. And this is just called pin basting. And now I'll get my needle and thread, and I'll start basting all around. But you can see that's gonna give you an idea of where to go. All right, so let me get my needle and thread and let me start doing this, and I'll be right back. Okay, so when you're basting your neck, be sure that your top looks good, and then just baste where you want that stitch, so you know that you're going to be hitting this. I hate when I get a little knot in my thread. So I'm going about 1/8 away from this neckband. Okay, so let me get around till I get to the other section, and then I'll show you what I do. Okay, now I'm at this spot. Now be sure that you pressed this seam like I showed you, rolling. And this is all nice and flat. So here's my pin basting. So I want to kind of follow that. So once you get a couple stitches in, take out your pin. Okay, and like I said, be sure everything is nice and flat. So this is just giving you a guideline of where you want to stitch. So just keep going around. And then when you get to the corner, you kind of just do a pivot. So let me get there and I'll show you a couple more stitches. Okay. Be sure it's nice and flat. Okay, so this is my corner. So make a little stitch. Okay, then come back, and this is your corner. Take out your pin, and then kind of get it lined up. Okay. Then just keep going to the next corner and do the exact same thing. You just want to keep this nice and straight. I hate when I get little knots in my basting thread. Oh, that's all right. It can stay like that. All right. So just keep going. Okay, get to your corner and come just a little bit before it. Okay, take out your pin and hit that corner. and you're gonna be about an 1/8 way. Keep everything nice and straight and flat. Just keep going up. And then we're gonna sew this. Okay, let me get that done and then I'll be right back. Okay, when you get done basting, come and look on your front side and be sure that nothing is buckled. Okay, then you're gonna start sewing this. And I usually start right here and go all the way around, down, over, back up, and then end up over here. So I think this is going to be probably about a 3/8. Let me check. Let's see. Okay, it's going to be a 3/8. So I just checked it. I just did a couple little stitches and that's going to catch that. So 3/8. Okay, so once you get to the yoke part and you see your first line or your stitching, okay, pivot. Keep this nice and straight and go down your basting line. Pivot, go across, pivot, come back up, and then you will end up at your neck. Okay, so if you're happy with that, then just come back and take out your basting thread. So just get that all out and then go to your ironing board and press this. Okay, so this is what you should have. And if you did the loops, you would have your loops right here. Okay, now we're gonna sew up our side seams. And there is a dot that we have to make. Oh, there's my stuff. Because we're gonna square this corner. Let's see if I can. It's right there. So mark that. And that is where you're gonna stop sewing. And I might have to use my chalk. Just so I can see it. So it's right there. Okay. So I just take a little of my chalk on a pencil and kind of drop it in there. So do that to both sides. If you haven't marked them yet. Notch right there. So that's right there. Maybe I can get a pin in there. And then I usually just measure to be sure that the sides are even. So let me see, we're gonna have about 7 1/4. And 7 1/4. I just have to move this, just, okay. So what you're gonna do is pin this. Be sure your dart is downwards. And you're gonna sew all the way down to your pin, and then you're gonna back stitch. So you're gonna do that on both sides. I'm gonna double pin just to know that this is where I need to stop. Be sure that dart is downwards. Okay, and you match your notch. And then you're gonna sew this at 5/8. Okay, put the pin in there. Okay, so go ahead and do that, and I'll be back. Okay, once you have your sides done, you're gonna open up your seam. Let me come on the other side here. And you're gonna keep going down. So you wanna try to get these about even. So you're going down the full 5/8. And then get a couple pins. And we're gonna square these. So right here is where you back stitched. So what you're gonna do is just turn these raw edges in and press them down. And then pin them in place. And you're gonna do this on both sides. So just turn that, press and pin. And do this on both sides. And then what you're gonna do is right at this fold, you're gonna sew up, go 2 stitches above where you have your, right here. This is where you back stitch. Go 2 stitches above that, pivot, come all the way over to the next fold, and then go all the way down. And that's squaring. So do that on both sides. Okay, let me get this done and I'll be back. Okay, now we're gonna do the sleeves. Now I just took 1 inch off the bottom of my sleeve because I'm gonna be putting bands on instead. And now we have to gather these. So like 5/8 in, and 5/8 in. That's where you want to stop. And you're going to gather these. I'm going to be using my gathering foot. We'll see how that works tonight. Now, if it doesn't work, I'll use my butcher twine and zigzag it. So we'll see how we go here. Okay, once you have your gathering thread on, I usually make mine at 11, just because I've made so many. So gather this up to 11 inches. And then you're gonna go over and you're gonna cut a piece 3 inches by 11. So whatever size you're gonna do your sleeve here, that's the size you need to cut. So just try to get that gathered as evenly as you can. Okay, then come over and measure. So I need 11. Let's see. Okay. So that one's good. Then just measure these. And that's good. Okay, then come over to your piece and you're going to iron just down one side like 1/4 of an inch. And do that on both pieces. Okay, now you're going to pin your bands. And we can sew these up, and then you're just going to sew each band up about 3/8. So get these pinned up, get your sleeves pinned up, and then we're gonna sew. So the cuff is 3/8 and the sleeve is 5/8. Okay, so get those done, and then just match your notches on your sleeve, and you're gonna sew 5/8. Okay, so let me get these done, and then we'll go to the next step. Okay, now this is not gonna be a tight band. It's gonna be pretty loose. All right, so sew all this up. Okay, so with right sides together, this raw edge, you're gonna pin this to the gather gathering part of your sleeve. Be sure your seams are opened and everything is even. So pin these around. Do both of them and I'll be back. So if you have to adjust this a little, you know, you can just pull on your string or kind of pull at it to loosen it. You just want those raw edges even. You know, if you feel a little bump, you know, just kind of pull it out a little. Okay, keep going around. Okay, so you're gonna sew these at 5/8 around. Okay, so let me get that done. Okay, pull out your basting or your gathering. And we're just gonna trim a little of this off, right where the gathering is. That way you won't get the bumps. So do this on both. And I mean, I'm just taking off just a little. Okay, now you're gonna turn this under. And you want it just below that stitch line because we're gonna stitch in the ditch and we wanna catch this back. So put a pin in your ditch and see if you come out. And I'm gonna catch it. So this is where I want to have my pins, and pin on the outside. So just keep going around, kind of get that right below that seam. Put your pin in and see if you're coming out. Okay, so flip it again. Check to see where that seam is. Put a pin in right in the ditch and be sure that you're catching that back piece. All right, let me get these done. Okay, and when you get that done, just press them, even with the pins in them. Just press it so you know everything is lying flat. So again, just go in your ditch and see if you're gonna come out. Okay, before you sew them up, just be sure you put them next to each other and that they're even. Okay? All right, I'm gonna go get a fresh cup of coffee, and my daughter just brought in some chocolate chip cookies, so I'm gonna have those. So while I'm doing that, if you could please like, share, subscribe, thumbs up, comment, that would be awesome. And I will be back after I get my coffee, eat my cookies, and I'll be stitching in the ditch. So I'll be back. Okay, when you start to sew in the ditch, remember, don't pull. because you might pull it away from that line. So you just want to kind of keep it flat and then sew. Okay, when you get done, just check to be sure you caught everything going around. If you didn't, just go back and just stitch it again. Okay, now we're gonna ease stitch. And that is, just make your stitch a little bit longer. And you're going to leave a tail on the end, on both ends. I'm just putting a pin here. This is just the middle of my sleeve. So I know that's the shoulder. Okay, but ease-stitching, do about a 1/4 inch. Leave a tail on each end from notch to notch. Okay, then get your garment. We're gonna put our sleeves on. So with right sides together, match your seam first. Just see where my... There it is. Be sure your seam is opened. Let's see. That's the single. On your sleeves, you'll have a single notch and a double notch. So be sure you get the right one on. Let's see. That might be the double. Oh, get this flipped over here. You're gonna hear my bird. It's his time to do his thing. Okay, so there's a double notch there. So look for that double notch, which is right here. So this is the right sleeve for this one. Okay, match your notches and your seams. Be sure your seam is opened. So I do my 4 points first. I do my seams. Oh, let me get the camera down a little. Okay, I do my seams first. Then I come to my first notch, which is right here. So I pin that. Okay, then I come to my next notch. Okay, that's my double. And pin that. Okay, then my top. I have a pin in here. And this piece is right on top. That is the top of my shoulder. So I'm gonna pin right there. Now we're gonna ease this in. So find your easing thread. Let's see, mine is, I think it's right there. Yep. and kind of slowly just ease this in. Need a little bit more. Now you can have some gathering, but you don't want it to go over 5/8 of your seam allowance, because then you'll have a buckle. But you can have some gathering. But just be sure where your seam line is, your 5/8, that there's no kinks in there. So this is just easing in this sleeve. And then I'll do the other side. Just keep playing with it. Be sure that your raw edges are even. So just keep playing with it. I might have to pull up that just a little. Where is my thread? There it is. Okay. There we go. Okay, and then just kind of be sure it's flat. Okay, then go to your other side and do the exact same thing. Get my thread out of there. And just ease it in. Might need my other string. Let me see if I can find it. Right here. There we go. Okay, and just kind of ease it in there. And I kind of just stretch it just a little and pin. Now this is a 5/8 seam allowance, and then right under the armpit area, you're gonna go back from notch to notch at the same stitch line, or you can go just a little above it, or below it, I mean. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Okay, and so what I do is I just kind of put this to the right side and be sure I didn't catch any of my shirt. Okay, and I didn't. Okay, so sew this up at 5/8, and then from notch to notch, sew the same seam line. You want to keep this as straight as you can. So just try to keep it so it doesn't buckle. Okay, once you have that done, I just take my pinking shears and I go around and take off some of the extra material. Okay, so let me get my next sleeve on. And then we have the lace to do, which we're gonna have for either the eyelets or the loops. We have to make that. And then I have to put my little eyelets in, and then we have to hem, and that'll be it. Okay, now we're gonna make the tie or the lace. Because I'm using the eyelets, I'm gonna have to cut mine, I think, a little bit smaller, because I don't think it's gonna go through. But you're gonna make this kind of like bias tape. So you're going to sew these two pieces together. Oh. You're going to sew these two pieces together. Open up your seam, fold it in half. And then when you get this line, you're going to fold both ends together. And then, so you'll have something like this. I'm going to cut mine down just a little because I'm using the eyelets. So I'm going to sew this together and just see where I need to go. Okay, everybody, here it is. So tomorrow I'll run up and get some bigger eyelets, and that way I can lace it up. But really, it's not that bad this way. But if I do that, I will make just a little video of it, because I think it would be pretty with it tied up. But anyways, that is it. That's $62.92. It has the band instead of the flare sleeve. And that's really about it. I'm hoping I can get some bigger eyelets. These are just way too small for me to try to get all that material in there. I thought I had some decorative rope or something, but if I do, it's white and it wouldn't look good with that. So I really want to use the material to make it look a lot better. So that's it. So when I get that, I'll just make a separate video of me putting in the rivets and the tie for this. So that'd be it for tonight. Thank you very much for watching, spending some time with me. And please like, share, subscribe, and comment, thumbs up. And I'll see you tomorrow.